Hello. We've been talking all week about the healing ministry and the miracles of Jesus. What is a miracle? It's when something unexpected happens. It's out of the ordinary. It astonishes us usually. And there are many such miracles of Jesus in the Gospels. But I want to talk about the strangest miracle of all, a different kind of healing. You see, there are many ways to be ill. Some of the people Jesus healed were blind. Some of them were paralyzed. Some of them had leprosy. And he healed them all in ways that met their needs. But there's another kind of healing that can go on if we're going to be fully, abundantly well. And it's that kind of healing I want to talk about right now. To be fully well, we have to experience personal wholeness in a spiritually meaningful life that has healthy social relationships. And one of the ways that we're not well, very often in society, that destroys human lives is human prejudice. Prejudice probably is more pervasive than any other disease among human beings. And it probably accounts for more death and disease and destruction than any disease you can name. It's just that pervasive. I encountered that kind of prejudice when I met a person who's my haberdasher. His name is Max. He's a diminutive man who was helping me buy a suit of clothes. And as we came to the checkout counter, I had detected the sound of old Europe in his voice. And so I took a chance, and I said to him in German, "Woher kommen Sie denn, Max?" in German, in Old German. And he looked at me, and he was in shirt sleeves. He opened up his shirt sleeve, and he held out his arm. And there on his arm was a number, tattooed. It was much bigger, much bluer than I had anticipated, though I'd heard of such things. See, Max was Jewish. And he told me, "I come from interesting places. You may have heard of them. I come from Auschwitz and Treblinka." What could I say after that? It left me speechless. And it reminded me of how so often in the world people are injured by dislike for people who are different. Max had suffered a kind of prejudice that destroyed millions of lives in the last century. I said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Max." And he said, "No reason for you to be sorry. You weren't there." I said, "Well, I'm sorry anyway. I feel bad about it." He said, "You know, I learned a lot there. I learned about the way the world works." And I thought, that's true, but it's not the way it was intended to work. Jesus even had to overcome prejudice with his own disciples. And one of the most amazing healing stories then is the way he healed the prejudice of his leading disciple. You see, he needed a leader. Without a leader who could overcome prejudice, there was no way to take the message of the gospel to the world. And that leader was the first disciple named in every list of the disciples. His name is Peter. He's always first, and it's Peter who confesses that Jesus is the Messiah. And Jesus says, "On this truth I'll build my church." But you couldn't get the truth out if it was going to be restricted to a small group of people living in the Middle East who were considered the in-group, and Jesus had a problem. And so he worked with Peter and the other disciples to overcome their prejudice. He took them outside of the Jewish nation to places like Caesarea Philippi. He told them stories about good Samaritans who were the outcasts of their day. He had respectful encounters with women and loving encounters with children to overcome prejudice that was already present in his very own disciples. But with Peter, he needed a special additional miracle. And it's that miracle I want to read now from Acts chapter 10. It came after Jesus had already departed this earth for the heavenly realms, but he's still working with Peter and the church to overcome that prejudice so the gospel can be heard. And it says in Acts chapter 10, about noon that day, Peter went up on the roof to pray, and he became hungry and he wanted something to eat. And while it was being prepared, he fell into a trance. He saw heaven opened and something like a large sheet coming down, being lowered from the four corners. And in it were all kinds of four-footed creatures and reptiles, birds of the air. And he heard a voice saying, "Get up, Peter, kill and eat." Now, like all miracles, this is astonishing. Peter had probably eaten a lot of things that I might not choose, but he hadn't eaten those reptiles. He hadn't eaten the snakes and all kinds of beasts and four-footed creatures that he saw in that sheet. He was shocked. And this happened 3 times. And Peter is wondering, what on earth is going on? Not very long thereafter, a Gentile emissary came to visit him. His services and his presence was being requested at the home of an unclean Gentile. And when that knock came on the door, Peter said something that showed he was getting the point. God has shown me that I should not call anyone profane or unclean. And so he went to visit Cornelius, this centurion who was, in fact, a Gentile. This was not allowed by the laws of Peter's culture. And when he gets there to meet Cornelius, he utters that great truth. I understand now that God shows no partiality, but in every nation, anyone who fears him and does what is right is acceptable to God. That was the miracle that was needed in Peter's life. And at Loma Linda University Health, we have an opportunity to live out that miracle in new ways every day. Students come here from over 80 countries every year. They bring with them their culture, their religious experience. Patients come to us by the thousands and tens of thousands from every kind of walk of life, from every different set of convictions and culture and language group. What an opportunity we have to reach beyond the dislike for the person who's different with a healing ministry, but first it requires that healing ministry in our own lives. That miracle that says everybody counts, nobody's left out. God loves every one of those children, and you should too if you're going to extend the healing ministry of Jesus. That's what we're called to do, and I hope during this special week of renewal, we'll commit ourselves to that kind of healing and get the same miracle that Peter got when he got that strange vision. Blessings on you.